You don't need press credentials to shoot moto racing. Seriously, Jamey Price, who I'm about to talk to in this interview, went from jockeying horses to shooting Formula One, Le Mans, and Daytona 24, and for some of the most famous F1 teams in the sport. He talks about how he uses video games to scout shoots, travels with $40,000 worth of gear, and how one shot may have changed the outcome of a race. Watch this episode. This is one photographer every race fan needs to know about. Jamey Price. Enjoy. So you used to be a jockey. I want to go even before that. One thing I love to ask people I'm super interested in is your first memories of using cameras.
So I got a digital DSLR, like a super basic. There's a Nikon D80 for my 21st birthday, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. But the first time I really remember using a camera that wasn't mine was a friend of mine's, Canon Rebel, and he lived in Florida, and his dad had a cattle ranch, and so we went out to this cattle ranch and we were firing 22 caliber bullets at just Coke cans and stuff. And neither of us, I mean, we're like young kids, and neither of us really understood photography, but we saw these like cool pictures of like bullet time, like where you see a bullet coming out of a gun. We're like, we're gonna capture that, which obviously is not gonna happen. So we've tried, and I remember like really enjoying the process of like understanding the bits of photography that I was kind of picking up just by being around this friend of mine that had a Canon Rebel. And so when I got my first camera, I kind of took it a step further and just started taking pictures of anything and everything from, the swimming events that I was, competing in, to my girlfriend at the time, to various college events, flowers and bees and butterflies and just stuff. And I thought it was really cool to be able to document my world and to understand light and to understand the subjects and the sports that you're covering and all those different things. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to learn photography because I've still to this day never taken a proper photography course. Like I've never done anything where I studied photography. I studied the history of photography for a 2-week college seminar. We had like a January term, what we called it.
Okay.
And I took a history of photography. So I have like the historical understanding of photography and how, as an art form, it has evolved, but I've never taken any kind of classes in any way that said, here's shutter speed, here's aperture, here's what you do to change, to understand the exposure triangle and all that stuff. I've just done it by trial and error.
That's I feel like that's the best way to learn.
It is. I think that photography school is completely useless for most people, because you can learn it by doing it. And especially in the digital era where you just need a memory card, you don't have to pay anything to develop film, and you don't have to learn to develop film. And, you can get a pretty amazing entry level camera kit for relatively low, price point is incredible.
You started on Nikon. Are you on Nikon to this day?
I'm still on Nikon. I've tried a little bit of everything. I've tried Sony for a weekend. I've tried Canon for a weekend. Yeah, it's not any real reason other than like, it's not that I adore any camera brand. It's like once you start investing, especially in this kind of career where, I'm carrying around with me on an airplane like $35,000 to $40,000 of camera gear. Everybody's like, well, why do you shoot Nikon? Why do you shoot Canon? Why do you shoot Sony? It's like, my Venmo is at Jamey Price Photo. If you want to drop me 30 grand, you're not getting it back. This isn't a loan. You're not getting it back. But if you would like to give me $30,000 to switch, I'm happy to do it because I could do my job on any brand as long as they have the camera bodies that can handle being outside, professional sports, and have the lens range that I need to do my work. I will shoot on anything. But, it's once you kind of go down a path, you're kind of sort of stuck there. It's not easy to switch. And when I have talked to Canon and Sony about switching in the past, and neither were really interested in like giving me any kind of serious price break, or, even when I borrowed the Canon equipment, they required that I pay the insurance to give their free loaners back at like the market value of that, and it was like $1,500, $2,000 of like insurance to send it back via UPS, and I was like, no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a similar approach to the whole thing. It's just like my current ecosystem is the EF mount for video and photo. So I'm like, okay, I'm Canon and Blackmagic for the most part
Yep.
because that's where the mounts are. I don't want to spend a ton more money. The other thing for me, for a while until I made the switch, I was stuck in the Panasonic Lumix ecosystem because those were the menus that I was
Yep.
used to. And in the heat of the moment, you need to be able to get through, adjust things, and get back out to shoot. So that was a big thing for me, is like the pain of having to learn a new menu system and not be fast with it when I needed to be.
That was, I
So
mean, I totally relate to that. And when I did those 2 race weekends with both of the competitor brands, like that was the biggest problem, is that I didn't really have a chance to like take it on a test drive really before on anything serious. And, you know, when you're dealing with professional equipment, I know my cameras inside and out. I know the menus, I know where they are. I can do it in the dark. I literally have to do it in the dark. So, like there's no lights at some of these tracks. Like you're just standing in the dark. And yes, it's a light up menu, but I need to be able to like go for the button that I need to hit immediately without thinking about it. But at the same time, if you made me, if you gave me a bunch of Canon equipment or Sony equipment and made me use it for a week or 2 or 3, I would figure it out very quickly because that's just the human brain. But yeah, still on Nikon.
so you talked to me about that stage of life. Let's go to jockey now. Are you still shooting while you're a jockey? Do you have a camera with you through that stage of life as well?
Yeah, it was actually hugely part of like the big fundamental process of what I was doing and how I was learning photography is I was taking my cameras to the races that I was competing in. I did it through college. I did it for a while after college. I moved to England and Ireland for about 6 months after college, riding racehorses. That was my primary goal, is because I wanted to become a professional jockey at the time. Like that was my goal. I didn't really know, like, I didn't know if it was going to be a real career, but I'd won some races and I wasn't bad at it. My biggest limiting factor is that I'm 5'11" and I'm not built like a jockey would wanna be, so,
I
um,
wasn't gonna go there, but I was like, you don't look short. I can't really tell
I'm
on this
not,
call, but
I'm an average sized guy, and so, yeah, like, everybody when they meet me, they're like, "Well, you were a jockey? You're not short." I'm like, "No, I'm not short," but it's not about the height, it's about whether you can make the weight or not, and so
Mm.
when you're riding racehorses, you're given a weight for each race that you ride in, so if you're riding in, um, you know, a maiden special weight or whatever, you're given a race riding weight that you have to meet with your saddle, with the equipment that you're riding with, and so that might be 135 to 145 pounds for what I was doing. And it doesn't matter what height you are as long as you can make that weight, because if you can't make that weight, then you're gonna be disqualified, right before you even get on the horse. So you have to be able to make that weight. So it's really about at whatever height you are, because there's jockeys that are taller than I am. There's incredible jockeys that are 6'2", 6'3", but they're like pencil thin, and it's
Yeah.
really unhealthy. And so there was times where during the summer I would run, I would do a lap of the racetrack or go for a run in the morning with like a rain suit on to sweat. And I wasn't
Like a
ever like
wrestler.
literally like a wrestler. And the only difference between wrestling and riding racehorses, not to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but the biggest difference between wrestling and riding racehorses, that is, as a wrestler, you weigh before your match, but then once you weigh, you want to go eat a hamburger and you want to put on that weight so you're as big as you possibly can when you wrestle your competitor. With horse racing, you weigh like an hour before your race, and you have to stay with you cannot, when you then leave the racetrack after your race, if you are with plus or minus 2 pounds of whatever you weighed out onto the racetrack at, then you're disqualified.
That's
So
so
if I
stressful.
it is. So if you go to the bathroom or to like eat a hamburger, or, you drink a gallon of water because it's, 100 degrees outside, or it's a really hot day and you're sweating. If I come back and I weigh back in at, if I had to weigh at 145 pounds when I went out, and I come back in at 140 pounds, then I'm disqualified. Or vice versa. If I go out and it's 145 pounds and I weigh 148, I'm disqualified. So, because
So stressful.
there's betting money involved in it. So it's very complicated. But long story short, I would bring my camera to races. I would walk around the tracks. I would take pictures of my fellow friends that were jockeys, the races that were happening. It's a beautiful sport. It's a lot of fun to photograph. There's just so much energy and color and atmosphere. Like some of these races, you could name 100 races, but the Kentucky Derby is one that everybody knows. But you go to the Kentucky
Of course.
Derby, and there's I was never riding in the Kentucky Derby. I've photographed the Derby, but it's similar stuff where you go to these races and you have, beautiful women in sundresses and hats, and handsome guys wearing, seersucker suits and bow ties, like super extravagant colors, and it's just beautiful. And that's just the people. Then you
Right.
add in the horse racing side, the actual sports side, where, you have jockeys that come back on from a rainy day. They're covered in mud and they're covered in grime and dirt, and they're bloody and bruised sometimes. And, the horses are covered in sweat, and there's just a lot of energy and color and emotion to it. And all of that stuff is stuff that we dream of as photographers. Like, you want to have that, especially as sports photographers. You don't want all those things as a wedding photographer, but like as a sports photographer, you want to have all of those X factor things that, when you get to photograph a football game in the rain, it's so much fun because you have all these splashes and the players are covered in mud, and there's just something about it that's a lot of fun. So it's very much the same in horse racing, that you have all these different little pieces of the greater sport that is really, really enjoyable to photograph, and it teaches you so much about photography. It's not just like peak action stuff, but you're doing portraiture, you're doing details, you're chasing the light, you're figuring out the peak action of the event, but also covering the event as a whole and documenting and storytelling and all that stuff that I was able to really do quite easily because I knew the sport so intimately. This is something that I lived and breathed and worked in, and I loved it. Like, I was literally getting up at stupid early hours of the day to go ride, and then I would be able to take my camera with me at some points um and just document it. And it was, especially when I lived in England and Ireland, it's beautiful. Like, it's a totally different world than we have in the United States. And, I met so many incredible people and had so many incredible opportunities. And I was able to build a portfolio of sports photography that is very transferable to pretty much anything else, just with horse racing stuff.
That's what I was going to, is like, is it analogous to photographing cars, not horses? And maybe did it just kind of naturally happen, or did you purposefully seek out that topic?
I mean, I've always been a car racing fan. Like, even when I was growing up, like I was 11, 12 years old, and I loved car racing. I thought it was the same things that I felt about horse racing, where it's colorful, it's fast, it's beautiful, it's dangerous. There's energy, emotion, there's fans, there's atmosphere, all those things. I could be talking about horse racing, or I can be talking about car racing and motorcycle racing. Like, if I don't say horse racing, you could assume that I'm talking about any major sporting event. So, I was able to take that portfolio of work that I built up, and the people, the network of people that I met along the way. And some of those people were, really important photographers at Getty Images in particular. I remember there's this guy named Rob Carr, who is a very, very well-known sports photographer with Getty, but also, he's been involved in the horse racing industry, covering horse racing, but also his family has been interested in horse racing for a long time. And so I met Rob, and he was like, "So what's your story, kid?" Like, he's kind of like probably 20, 25 years older than me. He's like, "What's your story, kid? Like, you don't want to just be doing horse racing, do you?" And I was like, "No, my dream is car racing." He was like, "Perfect. we are looking for some people to help us with the NASCAR side of Getty Images at the time because they'd just gotten the NASCAR contract as an agency. And so he was like, if you want to cover some car racing stuff, we'd love to have you for, not like staff or anything, but day rate Getty Images photographer. And this is, as a 25, 26-year-old kid, like this sounds amazing to me. So I was able to cover quite a few NASCAR races with Getty. Learned a lot about shot lists and all that stuff, but it was always something that I loved documenting and photographing as part of a team because you're not just out there by yourself, you're part of a big team of people, like 10, 11, 12 people. And you learn a lot. You meet a lot of really amazing people, and those people give you opportunities to do other things. And I don't work with Getty Images anymore. Like I'm still very good friends with a lot of the people on the Getty teams, and still talk to Rob fairly fairly regularly on Instagram. We'll DM each other, but you just meet a lot of people, and that's really the biggest thing. Just with my career, is I've just met some incredible people along the way that gave me opportunities to go do something better, different, um, and kind of move my career a little bit where I wanted it to go, which was ultimately toward car racing.
To the extent that you remember it, it sounds like, NASCAR was the first place that you shot. I'm curious. I have never shot anything in that environment before. I'm wondering, as a photographer, to the other photographers listening, as much as you can remember that first moment of shooting racing or after that first day and you sit down and you're like, oh shit. Like, what were those like big learnings that you remember that you're like, oh my gosh, I need this piece of gear, or I can't have my shutter at that, or like, do you remember any of those little things?
Yeah, I mean, but it's not so different, like I said, from documenting the other major sport. Like I'd done enough of other little things. Like I remember the first race that I covered with credentials was not a NASCAR race, but it was the American Le Mans Series race at, is that right? There was a NASCAR race that happened around the same time, but there was an American Le Mans Series race in Ohio that happened, and I remember getting credentials to it and having a really small editorial client. I just remember thinking, because I rented a 400 millimeter lens for the weekend, and because I knew I needed big glass, like it wasn't, you can kind of get away with a 70 to 200 with horse racing because they're going to come towards you pretty quick, and you can do a lot with a 70 to 200. But with car racing and racetracks, they're just big places to work. Even small racetracks are big places to work.
Yeah.
So I rented a 400 2.8 for the weekend. I was like, oh boy, this is kind of what you need to do this. And I very quickly understood if you want to do this at that level, you do need that equipment. And you don't need it if you're going to be a fan photographer. You don't need it if you're shooting weddings most of the time, and then, or portraits or food or whatever it is. But then you kind of want to dabble as a fan photographer at races. You don't need a 400. You could stick to renting one or not using one and just kind of doing it a little bit differently. But if you're doing it at a professional level, I knew that I needed a 400. So yeah, it was that was really the biggest, like, yikes. You got to figure out where to find the money to buy a 400 2.8 at the time. And so I'd saved up a ton of money just from little jobs and doing weddings. And I was working another job at the same time, selling alarm systems. And I didn't borrow money from anybody. This was all stuff that I just saved up, and I kind of lived hand to mouth. I didn't have a family. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have any like the overhead at the time. So it was just me. And I was like, I can live on ramen noodles. I've already been a jockey for 7 years. I don't need food. Like I'm used to living on water and celery and carrots
Mhm.
and like keeping my weight down. I didn't need to go be eating a steak every night or a nice dinner. Like, so I just kind of saved up where I needed to save up, and I eventually did buy myself a 400 2.8. Um and and it was a used 400 2.8, so it wasn't even like brand new. Most of the equipment that I've ever bought hasn't been new. So yeah, I just saved up and bought a 400 2.8. And you can kind of, it's an investment in yourself is the way I always describe it, especially with like big equipment purchases. If you're doing this professionally, like it will repay you very, very quickly. And so I was able to put myself in places that I wouldn't have been able to do or be with a shorter focal length lens. And I was able to put myself in that position to succeed make more money, find more clients, and it just starts to snowball toward like to the point where, that investment that I made in the 400 was easily covered by the clients that I was able to get in that first 2 years, basically.
So you've got your 400 millimeter. One thing I wanted to ask you was, is there tradecraft to knowing where an F1 track, for example, twists, turns, straightaways, the pit lane. Is there tradecraft to knowing where to place yourself when, or is it like there's the area for the photographers, that's the areas you're allowed to go or you won't die? Like how much of it is knowing where to be?
A ton of it. I mean, there are places where we're not allowed to stand because it's too dangerous. We call it a red zone. Some tracks have more red zones than others. Some of them make absolutely no sense, and it's been determined by a lawyer or somebody that has never left their office and said, "This is too dangerous. Cars going fast here. This is too dangerous." And then they'll make an area that's completely safe that I've never, ever, ever felt at risk ever. Like it would be impossible for a car to get to me in some of these places, but it's a red zone because, you know, like somebody deemed it unsafe. But then there's places I can stand where I truly you have to have your head on a swivel at all times because it's so dangerous. I'm not even going to say places or corners or anything like that because, eventually somebody's going to be listening. It's like, oh my God, you say what now? Doing a 225 miles an hour in this part of the course and there's no catch fence and you can stand there. It's like, yes. Um, but there's places where you feel totally safe and there's places where you're like, this is this is scary because all it takes is one bump, nudge, rub from a car, and it sends a piece of car flying at, 200 plus miles an hour, and there goes your head or your arm or whatever.
Is it by like country and track? Is
It's
that
it
what determines
there's
this?
literally no
Oh,
literally
okay.
there's no rhyme or reason to some of it. Yeah, it's crazy, but a lot of it is knowing where to stand. When I go out to a track, I do my research. I just went to a new track, this past weekend. I've never been to Zandvoort, which is just west of Amsterdam, so you're in the Netherlands. It's a beautiful track. It's really high speed. It's not very wide, so the cars are doing high speed, but very close to you, and I've never been there before, and I have a lot of friends that have been there, so the way I kind of, like, figured it out is I walk the track backwards, like, I won't walk it counter race direction, so the way that the cars are going, I don't walk that way, I wanna walk it the opposite way so that I see what I'm gonna see when the cars are coming toward me,
Mm.
so which is one, like, little trick of the trade that we do, and, yeah, you study a lot of photographs from other photographers, not just necessarily copy them, but to kinda understand what a corner looks like or the background looks like or um, just there's a lot of like little things. And then, but once you actually get there and you stand at that corner, there's a lot of things that you might have not accounted for, like how to physically get there. There's a lot of beautiful spots at Zandvoort, it's like a solid 45-minute walk from the media center out to that particular corner. So you don't really account for that stuff when you're sitting at home watching YouTube videos of like hot laps around Zandvoort or pictures from somebody else that went to that corner. You don't really account for that stuff. Um, so there's a lot of like research. I used to play a lot of video games, and video games are actually incredibly useful to learning a track because
Oh,
especially
yeah.
the newer ones, not necessarily like some of the older stuff that's not meant to be a simulator, but the newer stuff that is meant to be a simulator, like to some extent, Forza Motorsport is a good example. There's another one that I used to play called Project Cars, and you can fire up, let's just say, the Le Mans Circuit de la Sarthe, which is basically 8.5 mile track that they run the 24 hours of Le Mans at in France, and it's a huge racetrack. It's mainly built on public roads, and you can like fire that up in your racing console, and you can choose the time of year. So I can choose June. So the weather, the sunlight in June is always going to be the same, no matter what June it is, whether it's 1960 or 2025. The sun is always going to be in the same spot in on June 12th. So I can put in June and I can put in like 8 p.m., which is about golden hour at Le Mans. I can put that in and I can run laps at Circuit de la Sarre in a GT car or prototype, and I can figure out the racing line. I can figure as I'm driving, I can see where the sun is based on the shadows of the car. And then they have like the photo modes that you can kind of literally just pause the game. It puts you in a photo mode and you can spin around the car and look at where the sun is. And you can see, well, down this part of the track, there's dappled light coming from the trees as the sun is over to my left. The sun is casting shadows across the track. So that the car is going to be going through these dappled light bits. And you can actually take a lot out of that in terms
That's so
of,
cool.
and it's really just one of those things that I used to do a lot of, and now I just don't have time because I have little kids. But I do that research in other ways. There's a lot of different programs that are available, like SunCalc, where you can kind of directionally change where the sun is and which way the sun is going to be facing at a certain time of day, very specifically what time of day, and it uses Google Maps to, your overlay like the sun position on that racetrack. So yeah, it's really like there's just so many different ways to figure out a racetrack, but the best and only way to do it is to be boots on the ground and walk it.
Mm. So you're showing up a day or two in advance in a place you've never been, just to be
Yeah,
able to
usually at least like I'll be there. So for Formula One is kind of nice because you have media day, which is Thursday. So practice is on Friday, practice and qualifying
right.
Saturday, and then the race on Sunday. Media day is Thursday, and media day is like pretty relaxed in terms of working days that I'm used to. So you kind of have time to take pictures of the drivers walking in. You have press conferences, you have various media activities and things. But also there's like a specific designated time of the day where you're allowed to walk the track and they encourage it. So, you can take that 2 hours, and it only took me like 40 minutes or 45 minutes to walk the track in Zandvoort. And you can kind of like get there a day early and figure it out. But yeah, it's really just about doing your homework, however you choose to do your homework, just giving yourself as much preparation as you can, because if you just show up on Friday morning for practice one, it's like, okay, now what?
Mm.
Because the light might be totally different. If I get, amazing, gorgeous 10 a.m. light for practice one, it's going to be totally different in the afternoon. And there's a
Yep.
lot of different things that, like, if you go there at some corners in the morning, it's a really, really nice shot. But if you go there in the afternoon, it is not a nice shot. So there's a lot of homework that goes into it. There's people think like, oh, you just push button on camera, click, make picture, stupid racing photographer. This isn't that hard. It's like, I mean, it's not that hard, but it's not as simple as you make it sound.
Jamie, who are those? Are there any that I wouldn't know about because they're not on social media, like any crusty vets of like the photography world that do no prep and they've been doing it for 30 years and just kind of show up, but they just nail it? Are there any folks like that?
Yeah,
Or is it
there's a lot of like that's what's really cool about racing photography and sports photography as a whole, is that you do have these guys that have been around and girls that have been around for a very, very long time. Like, I'm very fortunate to rub shoulders with some of these people that I grew up looking at their pictures and studying their pictures and idolizing their pictures. And now I'm standing trackside with them, to take pictures of these cars at places where they've been covering, you know, for longer than I've been alive. Like, there a lot of them are on social media. There's not many that aren't, but
yeah.
two that come to mind that I had like kind of fun experiences with this past weekend. One of them being Mark Sutton. And Mark is, a very well-known photographer in the Formula One world. He's taken a lot of really iconic images. And he was like, yeah, I love this track. I've been coming here since 1985, which is 2 years before I was born. He was like, this was the first year that I shot there, 1985, and I wasn't even like crying in diapers yet. Um,
That's
and
awesome.
they have a lot of like experience, and racing has changed a lot. Like it's not what it used to be in many ways. In some ways, it's slightly better. It's just different. But in a lot of other ways, it's much, much harder because back in the day, there wasn't any catch fences. There wasn't a lot of the safety things that we have to deal with now. There probably wasn't any red zones, but it's just different. And so they've kind of had to adapt. And obviously, they were shooting film. So, on very, very different cameras, and it wasn't at all the deadline delivery of sending pictures live from where I'm standing on a racetrack to, an editor who's then dealing with the pictures in real time. They're just doing rolls of film and putting them in a pouch, and then somebody would pick them up on Sunday night and fly them back to the UK home base for whatever agency they're working for and develop them overnight. And they may never even see their pictures until it runs in print a couple weeks
Mm.
later, a couple days.
Um, I want to talk about that that workflow on site in a minute, but one thing I love to ask, and you're someone that I can definitely learn from on this topic, traveling with gear. You mentioned 400 millimeters, super important. I'm guessing that doesn't go in your checked bag; it's staying with you.
I
But I
do
want to
not
know
trust the airlines.
what's that?
I do not trust the airlines.
Thank you. I want to know what your strategy is. Like, do you check a bag with gear in it? Is it all at your hip at all times? Like, talk me through it a little bit.
Yeah, so I've just had to order a brand new one, but this is my clothes suitcase. So this is where all my clothes go, and that goes under the plane because clothes are replaceable. I can get pants, shorts, socks, underwear, toothbrush, shampoo, no matter where I go, whether it's, you know, California, Singapore, China, England, Hungary, the Netherlands, doesn't matter. I can get that stuff anywhere. What I can't get is a 400 like readily available to rent or to buy in some of these places. Like I've been to Russia a couple times. Like they're not just going to carry it at the local like Tesco essentially, or Walmart or something like that. Like I need to have all my equipment with me, and I always feel sorry for all these people that put a Pelican case under the plane. It's like, well, it's a Pelican, they can't break it. Yes, they can break it. And second of all, it may not get to your destination with you. So no thanks.
Mhm,
So I
mhm, mhm.
travel with, it's basically a carry-on suitcase essentially is what it looks like, but it's got the little foam dividers in it. And I
Okay.
have all of my camera gear in that without exception. I'll put the lens hood and the non-essentials in my check bag. Like I carry a belt bag, so I have like a little waist belt. But my monopod, my lens hood, all the stuff that like that, I will have in my check bag. But all of the camera gear that I need to do my job that I can't just go down to the store and replace will be in my overhead bin above my head, no matter what. So
Mm,
that is, and that I'll have like a backpack that it's a pretty decent sized backpack, but it goes under the seat in front of me with my laptop, with hard drives,
nice.
chargers and all that stuff that I'm not gonna get somewhere and be without all those things that I need. But yeah, it's really important. Like I don't trust the airlines. I've had enough bad experiences where they've lost suitcases for many, many days or weeks, and I'm not gonna let them do that to essentially like non-replaceable camera gear that if I get to somewhere and I can't do my job, my clients aren't going to be super stoked about that.
Sure, yeah. Do you ever ship gear to yourself to where you're gonna ultimately land? Do you use,
Yeah,
like,
it's
a rental house or anything like that? No?
same thing. It's just there's too many factors to take into account, and the price of it too. So I have and own everything that I need, and I don't really want to chance anything else. So I've built up my equipment list over time. It's not been something that I've all done in one go. It's been small upgrades. Like, the 400 was one of the biggest ones that upgrades that I did, at the beginning of my career. But, even before that, I went from a Nikon D80 and a kit lens to the first thing that I really bought was a 7200, like one of the off brand 7200s.
Like a
And
Sigma or something?
yeah, basically like, and you kind of build your gear essentials list slowly, and you don't have to do it all at once. And it's taken, I mean, I've been doing this for essentially 15 years at a professional level. And then none of it's been like, go buy all of it at once. It's like, okay, this is a lens that I think I need. I could really use something really wide. So I'll buy a 14 to 24 millimeter. And then a couple years later, I'll buy, a prime 85 or whatever I'm feeling like, to change up my style, or I'll sell a lens. And I've kind of built it to the point where this is what I use and this is what I get the most out of.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Well, okay, so workflow. Before I get to a couple final questions, I wanted to learn a little bit about, because you were posting a little bit on Instagram, I think, about your workflow and how it's common to do a live upload of your stuff. Is that how you're working when you're on track most of the time? Or are you going to cards and then onto drives? Or just talk us through that a little bit.
It really depends on the client that I have and what they're needing, and to be honest, the sport, because with Formula 1, it's you need the teams and your clients need those pictures, like, immediately, essentially. You are taking picture from wherever position I am at turn 3. I'm taking that picture, I'm connected to basically a Wi-Fi hotspot, and then my camera's connected to that, and has basically a connection to an FTP server in the UK, and there's somebody sitting at a desk in the UK with the agency that I work for who is processing all of our images in real time to send them in real time to the clients that we need to have, because it's like the Olympics. When Usain Bolt crosses the finish line of the 100-meter dash, you don't want those pictures 3 days later. They're up on CNN and Fox and wherever else, like, almost as fast as he ran the 100-meter dash, and it's the same thing. We'll take a picture of the start of the race, and those pictures will be online essentially before they even get back around to us 2 minutes later. So,
How
it
does
is
it
important.
work? Sorry to cut you off. Go
No,
ahead.
no. It is it's just an important side of it to have that deadline upload. Yeah.
Yeah. How does it work with, like, are you sending the raw? Are you sending a JPEG, color profiles? Like, do you ever see images pop up and you're like, what did you do to the coloring of that? Does that happen? Like, what is that like?
Not too often. Sunset and sunrise are kinda hard, but so I'll shoot JPEG and RAW, so I'm to a card, I'll shoot RAW for myself. And some of our clients, there is a couple clients that the agency that I work for has that want RAW files. They want to
Wow.
be able to have the control over those
Sure.
images and how they blow them up and use them and process them. Like, you are taking a nice picture, you're taking the raw picture, but they want the full control over how they process that picture.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not going to say names, but, like, you have heard of this company. 100%. Everybody on this planet has heard of this company. And so they do big, big, big billboards and posters and stuff in boutique shops. Like, it's a big deal. And so when you're shooting, that's what they want. And so, like, who am I to say, no, you don't get the raw file? Like, the hell with you. That's what they want. That's what they get, and they're paying for it. So, and they're paying really well for it. But then, you'll shoot JPEG files to upload immediately for immediate needs, but then later we'll go through and just pick out the raw files of the stuff that we really need or want.
Yeah.
And those raw files can then be sent to, whatever client is needing, or I'll just use them for my own processing. Not like that I'm doing that much processing to my pictures anyway. It's like kind of minor crop and highlights and, you
Yep.
know, adjustments, but I'm not like adding rainbows and unicorns or anything. But the raw files are,
Right.
they're just a better file than the JPEG file. And the margin has definitely narrowed from what it was 10 years ago between JPEGs and RAWs. But, you know, if you've ever tried to process a JPEG at sunset or sunrise and you didn't nail the white balance or exposure that you wanted, like, you're not getting it back. So,
Nope.
everybody's
Nope.
like, "Why would you shoot RAW?" It's like, because I'm shooting at sunset and
Yeah. Yeah.
sunrise for the Rolex 24, and I would like to not have this picture look like, you know,
Yeah.
just something that's embarrassing to my name. But then there's a whole 'nother side of the live upload that there's, like, the whole Formula 1 side, like, that they want pictures immediately for social media and press release and just that side. But then there's another side to almost all car racing. It's not just Formula 1, but all car racing, and I have clients within sports car racing that I have. These are my clients. This isn't agency stuff. These are my teams, my drivers, my manufacturers, and they will email me or text me during, not even email, they'll text me during a race and say, "Hey, Jamie, we need a shot of the left rear diffuser side of this car right now. Like, we need to know right now if this car has damage to know whether we need to come in for a pit or not. If the series is going to black flag us because we have enough damage that it's justifiable that they require them to fix it, we need to know if this is like something that we need to worry about right now or something we need to worry about later. Not even necessarily on a performance side. Like it definitely can be a performance thing. But I get those texts every single race that I shoot in sports car racing, like literally multiple times during the race. I think I
Wow.
probably got 6 or 7 during the Rolex 24, 4 or 5
Wow.
during Sebring 12-hour from multiple different teams that I'm working for. And it's not just like, oh, hey, Jamey can do this. Any team any team gets this type of service. Like, absolutely not. I am working for you and you are paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an added value part of what I can offer, that I can send them a picture right from where I'm standing, just like I do in Formula One, but it goes to a gallery that they have access to, that they can see the left rocker on the car, or the, left front splitter, or the rear wing, or whatever part of the car that they've asked to see. I can take a picture of it. I can figure out the settings that I need to shoot on, because you don't want to shoot this type of stuff at a tenth of a second. Like, you don't want it to be pretty blurry, artsy. This is like, shoot it at f11, ISO 2000, 1/8000th of a second shutter speed. Like, the car is frozen. It is the most boring picture I've ever taken in my life, but it is
It's like a
razor
medical
sharp.
photo.
It is a crash. It is like literally a medical photo or a murder scene, picture. Like, they need all the details, everything, and they need to see it in full blown high res on the engineer's computer on the pit wall right then and there, not an hour from now, not 20 minutes from now, right now, because
Mm.
those are the types of situations that can win or lose a team in a race. That, like, if they have damage, they need to know whether they need to do something with it. I mean, one of the funniest examples, I mean, it wasn't funny, but one of the most entertaining examples I had of doing this type of service was a couple years ago. Toyota, during the 24 hours of Le Mans, it was early in the morning, and one of the cars was leading the race, and this number 8 Toyota hit a groundhog, or a very large squirrel, doing 220 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight at Le Mans. And you can imagine what happened to the squirrel, but
Mm-hmm.
also what happened to the car. Like, these things are carbon fiber. Like, you shoot a turkey, at 220 miles an hour, like, you could blow a wall down with it. And that's kind of like the damage you're talking about. And so they texted us, me and the other photographer, James Moy, and they texted us at like, I don't know, it was like 7:40 in the morning. We're a little more than halfway through the race, and they're like, "Hey, so we've hit something down the Mulsanne. We think it was a squirrel or a groundhog or something, and we need to see the front of the left front side of the car to see how bad this hole is, because we think we know that it's costing us performance, but we don't know how bad it is." So I was the one that was awake at the time. My colleague James was asleep, just taking a little nap, because it's a 24-hour race. You've basically been working for 30 hours at that point, nonstop, without a break or sleep or anything. So I'm like, all right, I got it. So I go to a spot as fast as I can and get, my big 400 millimeter out, and I figure out like where exactly this car is on track, and I wait for it to come by me. That first time I dial in my setting, it's kind of the same thing: 1/8000th, f11, ISO 2000. It's going to be razor sharp. And I take a picture of it, and sure enough, there's a humongous hole like this big in the splitter of the car, and that's a big piece of aerodynamics that's missing from this
Mm-hmm.
rocket ship that's been
That poor
designed to
squirrel.
cut through the air like a jet fighter. There's now a hole in the jet fighter, and so I sent this to them, and they're like, "Oh." Um, And I swear to you that they ended up losing the race that year, and I swear to you that squirrel cost them the race, because if they hadn't hit it, there was like a whole bunch of things that then happened kind of as a result of that. Like, they ended up having to do a pit stop to change the front nose, and it cost them 20 seconds in that, and then it kind of like compounds, and they lost the race by 35 seconds or something like that. And a 24-hour race, like, it really, all those seconds add up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And 35 seconds to lose a race isn't a lot. Like, Formula One races they had a wider margin in an hour and a half race, but over 24 hours, you can really like do some damage if you don't have that
Yeah.
car like perfectly nailed down
Yeah.
exactly the way you want it. So we are providing like a real service to the teams that we're working for that is a performance service. That's not just like, here's a pretty picture at a tenth of a second of your car going past for social media for like 12 people to see. It's like we're helping win races, and we're part of the team in that sense, and it is a really cool part of the job that I really enjoy.
Maybe last question. Do you ever shoot anything boring or
Yeah,
slow?
all the time. I'm a staff photographer for a magazine in Charlotte that I've been staff photographer for them for 12 years now. May actually technically longer than that. It's
Shouldn't say boring, like slow moving is what I
Oh
mean.
yeah, so I'm doing food photography. I'm doing people
At all.
portraiture. I'm doing
Okay.
landscape stuff. I've had multiple like assignments and covers of stuff that you would never ever assume that I took, but it's a job. Like this is how I make a living. So I make you know 60. It's like probably 70% of my income is all from car racing, and then there's 20% that's like food photography and other stuff, and then there's like another 8 to 10% that's just like, somebody needs headshots of their office, all the people that work in their office, like, "Can you do it?" I was like, "Yes, I can do it. Here's the price." And they're like, "Great." I'm like, "Great, this is what I'm doing on a Tuesday afternoon after I get home from Monaco Grand Prix or whatever."
So you're just keeping going.
That's the
Um,
job. Gotta make a living somehow.
yeah, absolutely. I want you to plug your print shop because I think your prints are amazing. What's the URL?
Thank you. JameyPricePhoto.com/prints but
Yeah.
I actually don't even sell that many prints. I've really enjoyed like doing prints, but racing stuff, like it's hard unless you're a big car racing fan, it's hard to like niche that down. So I've kind of done like a nice almost art gallery type thing where you have different curbs from different parts of the world, different famous racetracks or famous corners. Those have been really popular with people because it's not so like you're a Lando Norris fan or a Max Verstappen fan or a um
That's what I love about it is it's not it's I mean, I love the prints. I'm gonna get one after this. I can't decide on which one to get because I don't want it to like make a statement about like this guy likes Ferrari
yeah.
or
Yep.
I want it to be
That's
something I want it to be
that's
like
the problem.
I like racing,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I like racing. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I learned a ton from talking to you. I think if we were to end on one thing, you mentioned press credentials, but like talk to young Jamie here for a second because I think people that look for this content and go to seek it out like are looking for knowledge and just getting their start. Like, what are the one or two things that you would tell that person to like get their first press credentials or they just got their first camera for Christmas or whatever? Like, what are the couple pieces of wisdom that you would share with them?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the way that most of us doing this professionally at a professional level started is by just going to races. You bring your camera and you go to races. It is literally what I did. It is what so many other people have done where you bring your camera to a race and you don't need credentials. There's so many amazing races and events all over the world, not just Formula One races, not just the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but there's some incredible events that you can go to, bring your camera, and the series and the tracks encourage you to bring your camera. You can't do that with the NFL. You can't just bring a 400 millimeter into the Super Bowl and be like, "Oh, I covered the Super Bowl." It's like they're not going to let you in with that camera and the lens. You can't do it with the Masters or PGA stuff. You can't do it with the NBA or the NHL or any other sport that I can think of. But racing is very, very unique in that these sports and these series are encouraging the fans to bring their cameras and to document it and have fun and do it in their own ways. There's Formula One races that don't allow you to bring a camera. Like the Dutch Grand Prix that I was just at, they don't allow people to bring cameras in, and it's really, really sad. But there's so many other races that do allow that where you can just bring your camera and you can set up for the day, have a hot dog and, water and walk around and take pictures of the drivers in the paddock area and the cars in the paddock area. And then do all the trackside stuff. And so just go and bring your camera, just have fun. You don't need credentials to make beautiful pictures. you kind of have to think of like being a professional motorsport photographer or being anything in racing is how would a Formula One driver become a Formula One driver? You don't just get a driver's license and show up in the paddock, the next weekend, and be like, hey, I'm here to drive the Ferrari, like, put me in and strap me in and let's go. Like, that's not how it works. You work from the ground up and you start at the lower level stuff, you get really good at it, then you kind of go to the next level, you get really good at it, you go to the next level, you get really good at it. And the whole time you're meeting people and you're getting better at your craft and you're meeting more people and you're getting better at your craft. And it just kind of keeps compounding to the point where you are able to know the right people, have the right skill set, have the right knowledge, and then take that and, with the perfect recipe and the perfect storm of knowing the right people, you can then make money at it and start making money at it. And it doesn't necessarily happen at the top. Like, actually the best money is kind of like in the mid-level
Is it?
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of like, honestly the easiest low bar work is really the mid-level stuff. It's not at Formula One, it's not in karting, it's kind of like the mid-level stuff. And it's it's just a lot of fun. And that's really the best thing, is to just go to events and just start getting better at it and getting better at photography, because you're not going to get better at photography watching YouTube videos. Like, you got to go out and do it. And, you're not going to get better at car racing photography. You got to go out and do it. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. And that's really the thing that I love, is when you go to races, like, it's still weird to me that people come up to me and, like, I've signed lens hoods and, people want to take selfies, and I find it really weird because
That's awesome.
I'm just a guy that likes cameras.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, at the same time, I get it, because I looked up to photographers when I was, younger and aspiring as a motorsport photographer. Like, there was people that I wanted to reach out to and, get their advice and all that. So I get it, but it's weird to me sitting where I am doing what I do, and people are coming up to me wanting me to sign their lens hoods, and I can barely sign like my name on a check kind of thing. And I feel like I feel weird when I'm signing somebody else's, like, piece of equipment they're going to be carrying around for years. But
That's pretty cool.
I love
That's
that
pretty cool.
photography is, especially at races, is so inclusive of, you know, men, women, kids, minorities, literally everybody under the sun can all find something that we all love about racing or cars or photography. And it's a lot of fun. I love it.
So just go shoot. I mean, I'm not knowing that about the racing. I find it's so cool to learn that they don't stop some of those races. You can bring a lens in. That's so cool. Like,
The
that
Daytona
is,
24 and Sebring 12 hour at the beginning of the year, which are part of the IMSA WeatherTech series that I
you
cover
can
full time,
really, that's
literally.
so cool.
And some of the pictures I've taken from Daytona, from Sebring, are from fan areas that are just as good. Like, like where I'm standing with the credentials and photo vests, and I'm working for Lamborghini. The
That's awesome.
places that I'm standing is literally no different than what you can do standing 6 inches behind me on the other side of a 3.5 foot like chain link fence. And it's not like a catch fence that's separating us. Like, I'm standing on the credentialed side and they're standing on the fan side where all the camper vans and RVs are parked. You can
That's so
bring
unique
cameras.
in
It's
sport.
amazing. It's amazing.
That's so unique in sport. I mean, I would there were so many times I got turned away with my gear as a high schooler trying to get into something that they wouldn't let me because, that's really, really cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Is there any other things other than your print shop you want to plug
No, I mean,
before we stop recording?
just follow me on Instagram is really where I kind of post a lot of my stuff. I'm pretty active on YouTube and TikTok. I have like long form video blogs that I've been trying to make on YouTube, which is a whole nother
So much work.
pain in the butt. But
So much work.
I've enjoyed showing the behind the scenes of like what a day or a weekend in the life of a motorsport photographer is like. And
Those are really cool, by the way. I watch
thank
all
you.
of them. They're
Thank
really,
you.
really cool.
It's
Yeah, I
fun.
think.
It's just a lot of work to do it.
Yeah, I just now that you've just spent some time explaining what it's like to be at them, like, how does he have the time to also kind of like vlog all of this? It's
I don't
like,
really know.
yeah, it's a lot of work.
It just kind of happens.